Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Gopi Jana Vallabha Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiyet Shartam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhasatam Nashtaprayasha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. So today we will be starting Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 7th canto, first chapter. So this is a canto where we hear a lot about Prahlad Charitra, the character of Prahlad Maharaj and his father Hiranyakashipu, the demon king Hiranyakashipu as generally known as. And it starts, the chapter starts with an inquiry. So let's cover the first verse. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 7th canto, first chapter. And the title of the chapter is, The Supreme Lord is Equal to Everyone. Now, as we know, this is one of the most controversial topics always raised. Is it really equal to everyone? So that essential question is answered in this chapter. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 7th canto, first chapter, first verse. Shri Rajo Vacha Samapriya Suhat Brahman Bhutana Bhagwan Swayam Indrasyate Katham Daityan Avadhita Vishmo Yatha. Shri Raja Vacha, Maharaj Parikshit said, Samaha, equal, Priya, beloved, Suhrit, friend, Brahman, O Brahman Shukdev, Bhutanam, toward all living entities, Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord Vishnu, Swayam, himself, Indrasya, of Indra, Arthe, for the benefit, Katham, how, Daityan, the demons, Avadit, killed, Vishmaha, partial, Yatha, as if. Translation by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. King Parikshit inquired, My dear Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, being everyone's well-wisher, is equal and extremely dear to everyone. How then did he become partial like a common man for the sake of Indra, and thus killed Indra's enemies? How can a person equal to everyone be partial to some and inimical towards others? Shri Radha-Madhava ki jai, Shri Shri Gaurantaya ki jai, Shri Shri Sri Gaurantaya ki jai, Anant Kore Vishnu ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 9.29, the Lord says, Samo aham sarva bhuteshu name dvesho asti na priyaha. I am equal to everyone. No one is dear to me, nor is anyone my enemy. In the previous canto, however, it has been observed that the Lord sided with Indra by killing the demons on his account. Hataputra Vidihi Shakra Pashni Grahina Vishnuna. Therefore the Lord was clearly partial to Indra, although he is the super soul in everyone's heart. The soul is extremely dear to everyone. And similarly, the super soul is also dear to everyone. Thus, there cannot be any faulty action on the part of the super soul. The Lord is always kind to all living entities, irrespective of form and situation. Yet he took the side of Indra just like an ordinary friend. This was the subject of Parikshit Maharaj's inquiry. As a devotee of Lord Krishna, he knew very well that Krishna cannot be partial to anyone. But when he saw that Krishna acted as the enemy of the demons, he was somewhat doubtful. Therefore, he posed this question to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Goswami for a clear answer. A devotee cannot accept that Lord Vishnu has material qualifications. Maharaj Parikshit knew perfectly well that Lord Vishnu, being transcendental, has nothing to do with material qualities, but to confirm his conviction, he wanted to hear from the authority Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Goswami. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Samasya Katha Vishyamyam. Since the Lord is equally disposed toward everyone, how can he be partial? Priyasya Katham Asureshu Pritya Bhavaha. The Lord, being the super soul, is extremely dear to everyone. Why then should the Lord display unsympathetic behavior toward the asuras? How is this impartial? Suradash Katham Teshva Asahardam. Since the Lord says that he is Suridam Sarvabhutana, the well-wisher of all living entities, how could he then act with partiality by killing demons? These questions arose in the heart of Parikshit Maharaj, and therefore he inquired from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Goswami. Hare Krishna. Om Akyana Tirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurundritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vacharam Pangum Langayate Kripatanam Mande Shri Gurum Dinataram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So from this chapter and Srila Prabhupada's purpose, I am able to derive 9 points. So again, there are many points, many more points, but today we are able to focusing on 9 different points. I'll quickly list out those 9 points, and then we will be visiting each one of them in detail. So the first is the background, where we hear that, King Parikshit, he has doubts. And these doubts arise normally in our hearts. So we'll look at some of those aspects. And then the second is the very core of that question, that Krishna is not partial, he is equal to all, everyone. So it's Sarva Bhutana. Gyatvaman Shanti Vichati. So whoever knows that he is our well-wisher and our very best friend, then we can attain peace. So till we are satisfied with this, until that time, we are disturbed, we are not peaceful. Third point is, no one can describe the transcendental nature of absolute truth. So Krishna is transcendental to the 3 modes of material nature, and he is the absolute truth. So it's very difficult to describe him. Fourth point is, duality exists in material consciousness. So we'll look at some of those aspects. Fifth is maintenance of government versus maintenance of parents. Sixth point will be discussed. The same will be on Jai and Vijay, the doorkeepers, why they took the 3 births and so forth. And seventh point is just elaborating it as that it was the Lord who desired for Jai Vijay to appear as demons, because he sanctioned that request. And eighth is warning by Chakravarti Path. So it's very important to understand that we take all these lessons in the right perspective. And then the ninth will be conclusion, where we'll wrap up the whole aspect today as how Lord Krishna is impartial to everyone and equally disposed So let's come to the first point. Background. So here, King Parikshit previously heard in 6th canto, in the last chapter, it was described that Diti was performing devotional service to get a son who could kill King Indra. Because King Indra, the king of the demigods, he was killing her sons. And this verse is very significant that there is the word used, Daityan. So, Daityas generally have a demonic quality, but demons are not Daityas. Because Daityas means sons of Diti. And then we know there is an opposite side, Adityas. Right? Indra is one of the Adityas. And Upendra, Lord appeared as Upendra, the younger brother of King Indra, as an Aditya. Aditya means sons of Aditi. Sons of Aditi are Adityas, and sons of Diti are Daityas. And who's their father? These Adityas and Daityas, Kashyapa Muni. So we have the picture of Vamandev there that shows Kashyapa Muni along with Aditi, doing the initiation and performing that ceremony, the Brahman initiation ceremony, and various demigods, they're bringing different type of gifts for the Lord. Like one gives the umbrella, Chamar is given and so forth. Kamandu is given, the stick is given and so forth. So we have that. So Kashyapa Muni is one of the Prajapatis. So he is the father of Daityas as well as Adityas, because they are sons of Daityas are sons of Diti and Adityas are sons of Aditi. And the question is raised that even her attempt to beget a son is spoiled. Yet at the same time, Indra takes the 49 sons of Diti, who were Daityas, with him to his assembly. And so the 49 Maruts are present in Indra's ceremony, his assembly, and they are performing. So hearing all this conversation, hearing all this narration by Shukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj becomes curious. He says, Lord seems to be just killing all the enemies of Indra, King Indra. He's not really saying anything to Indra, but he's just killing all the enemies of Indra. And even the Mool Mantra addresses some of that aspect that we'll visit shortly. So just to help Indra, Lord is killing, and he also kills Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. So that was also covered in the 6th canto, and that's why Diti was very much lamenting, and she was in mood of anger. She was angry, and she was desiring to have a son who could kill Indra. Now coming to the second point, that Lord is not partial, because it was Lord who appeared as Varahadev and killed Hiranyaksha, and who appeared as Narasimhadev and killed Hiranyakashipu. So how can we describe that Lord is not partial to anyone? He's equal to all. So it so happened like Srila Prabhupada, once he was giving his class, and there was a gentleman, and he challenged, in a challenging mood he asked, "You are not equal to everyone. I see you very nicely and very benevolently disposed towards these devotees who are these tilaks and all, while you ignore all the others. So not equal to everyone." And Srila Prabhupada, his response was basically that I am equally distributing the science of Krishna consciousness. And when he explained that, the gentleman turned around, and during the, after the class, while people were conversing, he was telling everyone, yes, he is equal to everyone. He's making sure that Krishna consciousness is distributed to everyone irrespective of their bodily conception of life. So even, no matter if you are an European, you are an American, you are an Indian, doesn't matter if you are an aristocrat or if you are a Brahmin or if you are a Vaishya or if you are a Shudra, he is introducing that science to everyone, irrespective of the various material qualities. So similarly, it is said that Krishna is equal to everyone. And the verse that was described from Bhagavad Gita in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, Bhagavad Gita 9.29, Samoham sarva bhuteshu namay dveshtu asti na priya ye bhajante tu tam mam bhaktya maite teshu chapyaham. So it is the second line that shows that Krishna is impartial. So it appears to our mundane senses as if from the second line Krishna is impartial, because he is saying, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. So right there, when whoever serves Krishna, Krishna is saying he is my friend, and I am also friend to him, his friend. So there is a reciprocation. And how do you differentiate this from previous statement where Krishna is saying that I am equally disposed to everyone? So let's understand that aspect. So again, do you have those doubts? Means sometimes people have the doubts, and especially when we came to Krishna consciousness, we even had those doubts. Raise your hand if you do. Is he partial? If you think he's sometimes partial, raise your hand. Let's see. No hands raised. Oh, one. There is an honest man here among us. Okay. So this is a very important question for us to understand. And for this, we have to take, go back a little behind, to the previous chapters. And Krishna reveals why does he come to the material world again and again? What are the causes? Why does Krishna come to the material world? Paritranaya sadhana, vinashaya chadushkritam, dharma sansthapanāthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So, Krishna comes to this material world to deliver the pious. Paritranaya sadhana, vinashaya chadushkritam, to destroy the miscreants. Dharma sansthapanāthaya. And the third one is to establish the religion, dharma. Sambhavami yuge yuge. I went to this material world again and again, time and again. So, Krishna is coming to this material world. So one may ask, if Krishna is coming, there must be some purpose. And even this material world exists, there must be some purpose. Because material world is described as what? What are the two characteristics of this material world? Dukhalayam Shashvatam. It's a place of misery and it's temporary in nature, Ashashvatam. Doesn't stay forever. So, basically the souls, they are suffering. And Krishna is trying to, what is he trying to do with this material world? He is trying to reclaim those souls, take them home, back to Godhead, because he cannot see the suffering of the souls. It so happened that once Prabhupada, he was giving a class, and one of the devotees, he asked, why did Krishna create this material world which is full of misery? Why is this material world created which is full of misery? And Srila Prabhupada's response was rebuking, that devotee, saying that it was not Krishna who created and made this material world miserable. It is you, it is us, living entities, who have made this material world as a place of misery. So now there is a follow-up question. So, can this material world become Vaikuntha? The answer is yes. Srila Prabhupada responded, yes, it can become Vaikuntha. Now the follow-up question comes is, what percentage of society has to become Krishna conscious for this material world, for this planet Earth to become Vaikuntha? Let's just stay with that a minute. Srila Prabhupada's response was only 2%. If 2% of population becomes Krishna conscious, then this planet Earth would be Vaikuntha. Can you imagine? 98% can stay demoniac. or even atheist. Yet at the same time, just by having 2% of the population become Krishna conscious, we can be. And how can you become Krishna conscious? By doing devotional service, right? And how do you ask for devotional service? The process is very simple. Srila Prabhupada gave it to us. And it's at the very core of our practice, by chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So just by chanting of the Mahamantra, you can take to devotional service. So now let's connect that. As this material world can become Vaikuntha, but currently it is a place of misery, and it is ashashvatam, it is temporary in nature. And so Krishna, he has to make an effort to come to this material world time and again, to reclaim the souls, take them back to Godhead. And he actually wants to take every one of us back to Godhead. He cannot see us suffering, yet at the same time we in our foolishness do not surrender. So that's our unfortunate state of mind. So Krishna is also saying, Dharma Sansthapanadhaya. Dharma is, Srila Prabhupada he has explained, is different than religion. Religion has to do more with faith. Dharma is a very intrinsic nature, right? So what's the intrinsic nature, someone can ask? What's the intrinsic nature of a living entity, of a Jiva Tattva? So Jivera Swarup Hoye Krishnera Nityadas. Right? So our very nature is to serve Krishna eternally. But then, we sometimes, when influenced by Maya, tries to serve Maya, right? Which are senses. We engage in sense gratification, we get distracted. And we start identifying from this body. We say, okay, I'm a man, I am 6 feet tall, I have such a complexion, I have such arms, and I've got this face, I've got this look. And what are we doing? We're actually telling ourselves, I have. But then what we are hearing is, I am. So by very nature we are servants, we are knocker. In Hindi we call it knocker. And sometimes devotees, we kind of like say, we are no car. We are no car. We are the drivers of the car, right? So when we start associating with the body, which is a car, which is a, yantra rudaya, it is actually a machine. This body is a machine, and the living entity is residing along with Super Soul in the heart. So Super Soul is in the heart of the living entity, and residing together, we sometimes, living entities, the Atma, associate ourselves and think that we are the car. We are not the driver, but we are the car. So that's where the concept comes, that we are not the car, we are the drivers. And if you say no car, convert to Hindi, no car is servant. So it kind of relates very well. So it is very important that when we dissociate ourselves from Krishna, we lose our potency. And that potency causes us to suffer. Think of a car, right? Everything in the car, the whole machinery is working fine. Now if a screw becomes loose and falls down on the road, what's the value of that screw? It's not part of the car anymore. Does it have any value? No, it just is considered junk. Nobody pays attention. But if the same screw is in the car, holding part of the body together, it has its value. It's actually working very nicely with the whole system. Right? So similarly, when we, living entities engage in devotional service, engage in Krishna's mission, engage in the parampara that he has established, as per the instructions given to us by the acharyas, we progress very nicely. So all these instructions are coming in. It so happened that we were traveling to Marysville to visit some of our devotee friends. And on the way there is a church, and outside the church there are generally billboards, right? we normally see the billboards. And this billboard had a very nice, very interesting caption. It says, do you want a new life? Right? Who wants a new life? People generally look at it and then they read the next sentence which responds to it. God accepts trade-ins. Very nicely. Right? All we need to do is take to the devotional service, chanting of Mahamantra, and then your life will be sublime. It will be transcendental. It is said to chant and be happy. And what do you chant? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, as we are discussing that Krishna is not partial, he is just here to establish the dharma. Even the Mool Mantra in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which appears in the first canto, third chapter, where all the incarnations of the Lord and his many portions are described. In that, the Mool Mantra is the 28th one, which is Ete Chansh Kala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam. So all these incarnations are portions and parent portions and expansions of you. Indrani Vyakulam Loke Hridayanti Yuge Yuge. Indra Ari. So the enemies of Indra, Vyakulam Loke, who actually cause a lot of disturbance in the universe. Loke, different places in this universe. Hridayanti Yuge Yuge. So all these avatars appear yuga after yugas, millennium after millennium. Now again, the second line also shows us a similar contradiction that he is always in favor of Indra. So let's try to understand the purpose of this material world. It's been created. Why it's been created? Because we decided, we revolted against Krishna. We said, okay, Krishna, you are in the center, but we want to be in the center. So we take the shelter of Mahamaya instead of Yogamaya. And by doing that, we actually, we have committed an offense towards Krishna. And for that, we are sent here. But then, the purpose is that we will learn our lessons, we will understand where our true happiness lies, which is, be with Krishna who is in the center. Right? There is a nice example given of an orchestra. Right? The conductor is conducting. And who's the conductor in our case? Yogamaya. She is arranging all that scene for Krishna. And in that particular scene, every artist has to play their specific instrument when instructed to do so. So Yogamaya, she's asking the violinist, the conductor is asking the violinist to play, and suddenly the guitar guy starts playing. That will cause some disturbance, right? Because the one who is really enjoying all this nice orchestra is Krishna. And Yogamaya wants to make sure that he gets the maximum pleasure, optimum pleasure. Shri Shri Gauranta ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki jai. Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nandi Kori Vaishnava ki jai. Go. So this orchestra is playing, and another artist starts playing, like guitar starts playing instead of violinist. So now this artist doesn't understand that he has to follow the conductor. So he has to be given that separate place where he can play to his full satisfaction. So the time out happens, right? Normally in daycares we learn about time outs in school. So it has to be provided their own different environment, their own different room where they can practice. So Krishna, he says, okay, you want to practice, he provides us that. As a father, as a well-wishing father, he wants us to understand. So for such persons, he creates a separate world. And now this particular world, you may be thinking, well, that's the material universe. No, it's actually further beyond. Because this guitarist, along with other guitarists and other instrument players who don't want to play in the orchestra, as per the instruction of the conductor, they are sent. But they need to have a separate place for themselves. They cannot be in the same room because then they won't be able to understand the very logic, understand to practice to be able to play the orchestra. So they are actually given their own places in the form of false ego. That's each of us have our own created universe. Within this material universe, in this body we have 5 gross elements, and then there is a subtle body which has 3 subtle elements. Intelligence, mind and false ego. And it's the false ego which is our own universe within ourselves, where we are trying to learn how to practice and play nicely, so that we can join that orchestra and follow the instructions of Yoga Maya. So here, Indrani Vyakulam Loke. Now it is very clearly understood that Lord Indra, who is he? He is king of the demigods. Demigods are also known as Suras. And demons are known as Asuras. Sura basically means devotee, right? So they are devotee of the Lord. And they follow the Dharma path. They serve the Lord in His various services. So they are actually helping. If Krishna is coming to this material world, He has all His associates coming, right? And He also has helpers coming. So when there was Bhumi in 10th canto 1st chapter, comes to Lord Brahma and asks for help. Lord Vishnu's instruction from the heart of Brahma was that ask these demigods to take birth in the Yadu dynasty. And so the demigods, to help the Lord in His mission, appeared. Now if someone is helping you in doing something, of course you will help that person more. And someone who is not helping you, actually someone who is opposing you, you will try to subdue that person. That's what Krishna is saying. Paritranaya sadhana vinashaya chatushrita. So of course, when we hear the word Indrani Vyakulam Loke, or when we hear that Krishna is killing the demons, it is basically identifying the fact that He is just carrying out His mission, which actually connects us to the next point, which is second point, that no one can understand the transcendental nature of absolute truth. Krishna is the absolute truth. Sometimes, because of our poor fund of knowledge, of limited senses, we think that we can understand Krishna. Just like we are judging an ordinary man and seeing their actions, we are trying to judge Krishna. But He is inconceivable. He is transcendental. So Shridhar Goswami very nicely is describing to Parikshit Maharaj that He is beyond the 3 modes of material nature, and He is even the creator of time. So when Lord Krishna is the creator of time, of course He is not limited by anything. So He cannot be put into some criteria. And there is, Srila Prabhupada used to give an example of an Nawab. In Lucknow they used to live a Nawab, right? So this Nawab, he had he was very rich and beautiful place to live in and so forth. And there were a lot of chandeliers in his house. So once one of his servants, he was cleaning a chandelier, and one of the crystal became loose and it fell down. And Nawab was in another room. And when it came down, when crystal falls from a height to the ground, it shatters. It makes a sound, a tinkling sound. And then Nawab, he came back running. He's like, what was that? What was that? And he saw his servant on the ladder shaking with fear. And now I'll be punished because I broke one of the crystal. Now chandelier is defective considered. It's considered defective now. So he said, by mistake, it became loose, one of the crystal, and fell. He's like, that was very nice sound. Drop another one. Okay. Servant is surprised. He's like, what? Drop another one. So he drops another one. And it falls to the ground and shatters again. And the Nawab says, very nice, drop another one. And similarly, he is asking to drop another one till all the crystals have fallen to the ground. Now from outside, somebody could say, Nawab is not very intelligent, what is he doing? He is destroying such a precious chandelier. But then, from another perspective, the chandelier belongs to Nawab, right? He is the owner. How he uses it is completely up to him. Who are you to decide? Right? So the material world is created by Krishna. He is transcendental. His actions are absolute. They are transcendental. Who are us, governed by the modes of material nature, to decide how he should act? since he is inconsiderable, he is benevolently disposed no matter what he does. And Srila Prabhupada gave the example in his purport of a cloud. A cloud pours rain no matter whether it's water, whether it's land or whether it's stone. Right? Even on ocean you see rain falling. In deserts sometimes you see rain falling. And sometimes where there is a lot of wind you see the rain falling. So it doesn't discriminate. The cloud doesn't discriminate that I have to fall here only. I have to pour rain only in this area. So similarly Krishna, he doesn't make any distinction. He is very nicely, carrying out his transcendental activities. And Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita in 18th chapter, which is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, he says, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan chasmi tattvatah tato mam tattvato gyatva vishte tat anantara. So even though Krishna is inconsiderable, he reveals that how he can be known. One can understand me as I am, in truth. Tattvatah, that's in truth. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me, by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. So yes, there was a question asked of Srila Prabhupada during the class, that how can we go back home, back to Godhead? And Srila Prabhupada said that the first requirement is that we should render devotional service, as is instructed by Krishna. So he clearly answered in line to what Krishna has said in Bhagavad Gita. And we have to take it that again, we have to take to devotional service to go back home, back to Godhead, to stop our suffering, to stop our miseries. And this repeated cycle of birth and death, and the miseries of old age and disease along with that. It's very painful. And by taking to devotional services, we have to first ask for it. It's a privilege. It is not a right. And how do you seek that privilege? By requesting. And the requesting comes in the form of a prayer. We call it Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And we want to go back home, back to Godhead. Yet at the same time, for the time being, we are in this material world. When we are under the influence of the three modes of material nature. Why did I say that? That for the time being we are in this material world, because I was suddenly reminded of another incident that Srila Prabhupada had. Once a devotee, he said to Srila Prabhupada, that Srila Prabhupada, mostly we are in Krishna consciousness, but sometimes when we are not in these classes and all, we go out, we get influenced by material consciousness. Srila Prabhupada rebuked again. It's so interesting that a guru chastises his devotee for their benefit. He said that mostly you are in material consciousness, and only when you are sitting and listening to Bhagavad and similar classes or engaging in devotional service, you are in Krishna consciousness. So we have to understand that we have to remember Krishna all the time. And we have to engage ourselves in devotional service all the time. So that is our state of mind, and we have to continue to make endeavor in our lives. So now it comes down to Jai and Vijay. Jai and Vijay were the devotees of Lord Vishnu in Vaikuntha. And how does it come to Jai Vijay? It's very interesting. Shukdev Goswami now goes to another conversation that happened between Yudhishthira Maharaj and Narad Muni. During the Rajasuya sacrifice, when Shishupal was blaspheming the Lord, calling him different names, of course bad names in this case, my Mother Saraswati uses the same words to glorify the Lord. Shishupal is calling him names, and when he crosses that limit of 100, what does Lord invoke? He invokes Sudarshan, right? What's the meaning of Sudarshan? Darshan means the one who reveals. Sudarshan is one who reveals very nicely. So sometimes Sudarshan is considered like a weapon who will kill the demons. But it's so interesting that Shishupal happens to be a devotee also. That's where Jai come in. And the Sudarshan goes and cuts off Shishupal's head. And from his body appears the light, right? The Atma, And everyone is seeing it, everyone is able to see. And it goes and merges in Krishna's body. So when it merges in Krishna, everyone is surprised. Shishupal was such a fallen being. Yet at the same time, he is able to get Sayujya Mukti. Further in the purport, and of course Devashinada theories, that that's not Sayujya Mukti. He actually goes back to his position as the doorkeeper in Vaikuntha. That was the third birth of Jai and Vijay. And he reveals to Yudhishthira Maharaj, because Yudhishthira Maharaj had the same question, just reversed what Parikshit Maharaj had asked of Shivdev Goswami. But Yudhishthira Maharaj had asked, how could a demon, like such a fallen person, like Shishupal, can attain liberation? Because he is curious, what of us? And Devashinada is saying, think, when someone is constantly thinking of Krishna, it doesn't matter whether they are thinking in envy or they are thinking in friendship. Thinking of Krishna constantly is important, because Krishna is absolute. And that remembrance of Krishna makes one perfect. So he is actually revealing the science of Krishna consciousness to Yudhishthira Maharaj. And so again, merging of the Jyotis, the 5 types of liberations, he becomes again Jai Vijay, they take the position. And then in that particular description, Devashinada is revealing that Jai Vijay, once they were guarding the gate, so the 7 gates to Vaikuntha, and the Chaturkumaras, they crossed the 6th one, and the 7th gate, they were stopped by these doorkeepers, Jai and Vijay. And so they cursed these doorkeepers, saying that you are in ignorance and passion, and so you should fall down to the material world. And at that time, Jai Vijay realized that they have made a big offense, because they looked at like these children looking, but they didn't know these are great personalities. In purport, Srila Prabhupada again reveals that there is no question of Jai Vijay falling down. It was all arranged. See, if the Chaturkumaras had entered Vaikuntha, nobody could ask them to leave, right? Yet at the same time, Jai Vijay stopped Chaturkumara, so they couldn't enter Vaikuntha. And Padmanabha Vishnu, he is the one they wanted to see. He came to the gate. And when Chaturkumaras saw him, they were satisfied. So they returned back. They didn't enter Vaikuntha. That purpose is solved. Yet at the same time, somebody could ask, why did Jai Vijay have to take punishment for that? But actually, Jai Vijay had a desire. They had seen the valiant form of Lord Vishnu so many times, fighting with demons and so forth. And they were very proud of, their potencies as well, their strength. So they had this feeling, and this is not the material pride, this is transcendental. One of the secondary races is chivalry, right? So they had that same feeling, like Sri Rama would challenge Krishna, tightening his belt and say, let's fight, and they would wrestle in Vrindavan. So similarly, Jai Vijay had similar feeling towards the Lord. And they wanted to have that, exchange that secondary rasa with the Lord. The primary rasa, the first 5 are, servitorship, dasya rasa. Then you have shanta rasa, which is neutrality. Then you have vatsalya, parentship. Then there's Sakhya Rasa, which is in friendship, and then Madhurya Rasa, the topmost, which is in conjugal love. But the secondaries, there are 7 of them, and this happens to be one of those secondary rasas. So Lord Vishnu wanted to satisfy them also. And it so happened that Goddess Lakshmi had taken an offense in the past. She once wanted to enter Vaikuntha, and Jai Vijay stopped her, saying that Lord Vishnu is resting. So, they stopped her at the gate, and she had to return and come back later. And when she went to Lord Vishnu, she said, you need to punish these 2 miscreants. They stopped me at the gate. And of course, the doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, they are spiritual beings, and they can never fall down. We have heard again and again Srila Prabhupada describing, and Prabhupada reveals that to satisfy everyone, and only Lord can do this. He can satisfy everyone, but just by his single action. When we, by many actions, we cannot satisfy everyone. Just to satisfy one person, it's so difficult for us. So from that perspective, we are looking at it. And Devashinada is revealing that, so these demons, means again Jevija were actually the doorkeepers, they were asked, what do they want? In this case, 7 versus devotees versus 3 versus demons. Jevija said they would like to have 3 versus demons. These are not small birds, these are, Hiranyakashipu was there for hundreds of thousands of years, so his lifespan was huge. But Jevija, they decided to come as Hiranyakashipu Hiranyakasha, later as Ravana and Kumkaran, and then in the 3rd birth as Shishupala and Dantapukra. And the 3rd birth is very interesting to see that they were cousins, they were first cousins of Krishna. So they appeared at this equal platform as Krishna. So this is where we learn, and Srila Prabhupada also reveals in his purpose, is that they are under the influence of Yoga Maya when they are appearing as demons, not Mahamaya. And their appearance is on the same spiritual platform as Lord Krishna's appearance. Mahatmanastu mam patha devim prakriti mashraya. So there is no question of them falling down. Right? And they are appearing. So that is where the 7th aspect comes in, that it was Lord's desire for them to appear as demons, and Yogamaya, who is known to even bewilder and make the spiritual beings forget, the Nitya Muktas forget of their position and Lord's position. Under her influence they appear. So it is very wrong for us to think that this was a demon king. He was performing that demonic activities under the influence of Yogamaya. Which brings us to the 8th point, where Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti warns us that we should not take to that demoniac mentality. And what is demonic mentality? Atheistic mentality, because that's very harmful. And this atheistic mentality of, not accepting the supremacy of the Lord will harm us, and we will be sent to the hellish conditions of life, and we will suffer more. Why do you want to suffer more? You want to get out of suffering, or you want to suffer more? That choice is given to us, and we have to make the choice. So we should be very intelligent not to suffer more and take to devotional service, which brings us to the last point of the conclusion of today's chapter, where we should take to devotional service. And to ask for devotional service is through the process, and the process is given by Srila Prabhupada, which is based on Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And just by asking for this service, the mercy of the Lord flows. And it's very interesting that the mercy of the Lord flows through His devotees. So sometimes it is said, even by the acharyas, that the Yuga Dharma is not Sankirtan Yajna, it is Vaishnava Seva. Because when you perform Vaishnava Seva, you get the mercy of the Lord flowing through the devotees. And you are able to engage in devotional service. And the Sankirtan Yajna of this age is to chant the glories of the Lord, right? Kirtan is Kirti. Kirti is glories. So Kirtan is glorifying the Lord. And it is not just done with songs, it is done by reading scriptures as well. It is done by, conversing with each other as well, and so forth. So that's the lesson we learned today from this first chapter. That we should continue to do what? Take to our heart the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Today is a very special day. So, please, whoever wants to go for prasadam, you can go. I'm just covering the glories of Ekadashi today. So today is Pandav Nirjala Ekadashi. So now there is a website. If you Google it, they will tell you the perfect recipes for Pandav Nirjala Ekadashi. When you go to that page, people are curious. They click on this page. And the first thing that pops up is like a flashing banner that says, what are you talking about? Not even water is allowed. Right? On this Ekadashi is Nirjala. So not even water is allowed. Why are you talking about other recipes? There is no recipe. The best recipe is to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra and engage yourself in devotional service for the whole day.